Hey friend, welcome to the Halfway to Dead podcast. I'm your host, Jen Lovell. Listen, you and I have reached that age where we are done with the bullshit. We know that midlife is our chance to flip the script and experience life on our own terms. It's time to reconnect with our higher selves and reclaim our inner peace. Are you ready with an open heart and an open mind? Awesome, you're in the right place. Hop in and ride shotgun with me on this midlife spiritual journey. Today, I interviewed Tracy Poizner. She's the visionary behind Space Time Alchemy, a revolutionary process that synergizes consciousness training, muscle testing, and the profound healing properties of the popular Bach Flower Essences. Her system has garnered global acclaim from performance-driven individuals on a mission to live life in the joyous pursuit of their own genuine and ever-expanding potential. She also has a really cool podcast called Limitless. So check all things out, Tracy. All the links are in the show notes. What do we talk about today? So these Bach flowers, you guys. So if you're into sciencey stuff, we kind of dig into these Bach flowers and be honest, no idea what they were before Tracy taught me. Okay. And I'm spelling Bach B-A-C-H. Then we talk about human design because she has done studies and come up with these blends of these Bach flowers that actually help you depending on what human design you are. So we get into all that. So this interview happened a few weeks ago. Since then, I've been taking my specific Bach blend for Manifestors, which is what I am. And when you order it, you actually get these little, what she calls release statements. We talk about them in the interview. But I just want to tell you a couple of the ones I'm loving. She gives you 10. And they're statements for you to use for intentions you set as you're taking this flower essence. So I'm going to tell you the two for me that I feel like it's been working. One of the intentions I've been using with it is my belief that I must take control or nothing will happen. And the other is my belief that I must handle everything alone to stay in control. Now, all 10 of them I connect with, but those are the two I've been working on. And I will say, I do feel different. I do feel like I'm able to give up control a little bit easier. I'm putting a link underneath here. So if you want to pause for a minute, if you don't know your human design, you can jump online for free and know what it is. So you can really connect when she's talking about your specific type, or just listen to everything we have to say about each type. You could guess which one you are and then look it up after. All right, whatever feels right for you, right? Do that. So let's jump in because I've learned so much, you guys, about these Bach flowers. Hey, Tracy, thanks for being here with us today. I'm excited to hear about all these new things.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I'm excited too.
Space Time Alchemy system. Right, I've been looking at all your stuff, Tracy, and I find it so interesting. Tell me a little bit about this first, about what you're doing over there.
Well, the very first thing I have to say is that Space Time was the name of my father's business. He was an architect.
Okay.
And he incorporated a business called Space Time Enterprises in 1969.
Okay.
And I grew up with that name as that was the family business that I grew up with. My dad is gone now, but my mom is about to turn 90. And a couple of years ago, when I was already doing this sort of consciousness coaching, for lack of a better word,
right?
My mom said, I have to either wind up the business and close it down, and nothing has been done there for many years. But, I have to either close it officially or do you want it? Do you want to take it over? And I said, do I want Space Time Enterprises? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So that's how I chose the name. It chose me. It's been with me all of my life since I can remember.
It feels like it matches up with what you're doing now too.
Totally. Absolutely. That's why I couldn't be happier about that sort of bit of synchronicity in my life. And all this work is about synchronicity ultimately. But I came from about 30 years of being a classical homeopath. That's been my professional journey. And I was a super materialist homeopath, which seems like a weird thing to say because it's ultimately energy medicine. But I was a very medical model style of practitioner. I wanted it to be medicine. I wanted it to be a better form of medicine without all of the terrible side effects of the pharmaceutical medicine and the extreme cost and all of that. Homeopathy is a fabulous, fabulous system of medicine. And it is practiced in hospitals all over the world by medical doctors. I wanted to be that kind of medical version of a lay practitioner. And just slowly over the years, things started to happen that really pushed me towards a more spiritual outlook, a more energetic outlook on this. And yeah, I won't go into the whole thing, but I found myself 5 or 6 years ago becoming really intrigued with the whole concept of consciousness. And I discovered a system that I started learning with the people who were teaching it called shadow alchemy, which was a very structured approach to archetypes and consciousness. So the archetypes, again, archetypes have been with us since the dawn of time. There are archetypes in the Bible and in Greek and Roman myths, and every kind of mythology of every culture in the world has archetypes. And this particular format has a very closed system. There are not like dozens or hundreds of them. And that really appealed to me, maybe as an architect's daughter, I don't know, but I really liked the structure of it. As well as all, all the content.
Human design structure yet, or just a consciousness structure?
Just a consciousness structure. Okay. So human design came along, way later in my journey.
And you're saying this is 6 years ago, Tracy.
Yeah.
Was there like a moment? Did something go down? I mean, like, did you just wake up one morning really interested, or did something happen in your life? Because that's usually what happens. Something goes down and things start to change.
It was probably around the COVID time, to be honest. Okay. When that started to happen. And I think you start seeing a kind of a much vaster picture. I mean, I'm just somebody who connects the dots. I'm a pattern reader. That's what I do. And I had started doing online coaching in the late teens or whatever, maybe around 2017 or 18, okay. I started to do online coaching. I felt pulled to share my experience actually as a stepmother, which is kind of a random thing. I'm a mom. I have a daughter, and the husband that I've been with now for the last 20 years has 3 kids. And I had used all of my homeopathy training, which is very much about understanding what makes people tick and understanding family dynamics and childhood development, human psychology, all of those things. I just thought, God, what do people do who don't have any of that resource? Yeah. Like, it was such a wild ride for such a long time. When the dust settled after about 10 years of being together, I thought, yeah, there's a lot that I could share here about what goes into being a stepmother. And for me, it was a very energetic thing. It wasn't, I wanted to bridge the energetic stuff with the practicality of what to do. And it filled a gap that nobody was talking about actually at the time.
Yeah, because you focused on the step-parent relationship. And did I see too, where am I getting this right? That you advocated also for like dads and their children, to stay unified?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I was always working with the stepmother side of the equation. And simply because I had nothing to offer from the other side. Like, I had no conflict with my ex-husband around my daughter. Like, we just separated and got divorced and continued to both be in her life, and there wasn't a lot of drama or conflict around that. So I had nothing to share from my own experience, whereas as a stepmother and with a husband who was being severely alienated from his children, I had lived that journey, and I knew what we had done that made things work out in a positive way for us. All I wanted to do was figure out if I could codify that somehow. Was it random?
That was based around that to start with.
My coaching was based around that, but it was always with a view to using this situation as a springboard for personal growth. Like that, it was always towards saying, okay, here you are in this situation, and how can you now become a bigger person through this journey? Like, because that's what it's for. Like, that's the end game of this. It's not just about figuring out how to do this little piece or how to respond to this kind of message or, getting really stuck in the weeds. It was like taking a broader perspective of the whole situation and saying, like, let's forget about all the details. What if this was just about you becoming, growing as a human being?
Becoming a better person, doing the right thing.
And that kind of filled a space in this like stepmom niche where the rest of the online community was very much about bitterness and slamming and anger and, how did I get in this terrible position and I hate my life and all that, I didn't want to have anything to do with that.
No, you wanted a higher vibe conversation about that.
A higher vibe conversation about the whole thing.
Okay. So you've got all this going on, COVID hits, and you start really diving into this consciousness consciousness thing.
Yeah.
Right?
It just grabbed me by the lapels. I was doing business, like online business seminars and stuff, like learning, about being an entrepreneur, which was new for me because for so many years I had just sat in my office and word of mouth business, and people called up to have appointments with me for homeopathic treatment. So I was learning about the online business world, and I just stumbled onto a recording of this young woman talking about her thing, which was this understanding of consciousness from a much higher perspective than I had ever heard before. And it was really a kind of drop everything moment for me. I really literally dropped everything and spent about 2 years just really immersed in that world. And it was just so compelling for me. I was obviously supposed to learn about it. And at one point, it's kind of cheesy to say I got a download, but I just really did. Another coach asked a question. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, which was the dad coaching, which I loved, and I'm really good at it. And it was a wide open market. There's hardly anyone in that field, considering that there are literally millions of, it's a huge market. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing? And immediately I said I would be putting the archetypes of consciousness together with the Bach Flower Essences. And
geez, that's specific. It
was totally specific. Like I almost, I joke that I say, I wanted to say, who just said that? Like it was not on my radar. It just came out instantly. And I thought, what a weird thing is that? Like, why would I do that? Then, I had no special feeling about Bach flowers. I'd known about them, for all the years because they're kind of a quasi homeopathic. I mean, we lump them together. They're really very different, but they were included in what I studied when I was learning about homeopathy, and I'd used them a bit. I never just had any kind of, special notice of them. So this was weird for me.
Knew about them.
I knew about them. I had studied them. I had used them a little bit.
And then you started diving into consciousness and that, and somehow the two clicked together for you.
The two clicked together, and I didn't understand it until I started doing the work. Because at the moment when I had this, inspiration, I remember saying to the woman, like, where would I start? I don't know how to do that. And she said, I don't know, open a spreadsheet, see what happens. Yeah. And that's literally what I did. I literally opened a spreadsheet and I put the names of the flowers down one side and some other things that I thought about, measuring or whatever.
Have you dove into human design, the archetypes yet, or not yet?
At all. Not at all.
Okay.
I had my chart read because the woman who I was studying shadow alchemy with, she was very into astrology. And at one point, it was all about human design. She said, I'll read your chart. And so I had my body graph chart done. It was brand new to me. So I just it was very cool to spend an hour and a half, diving into my chart, but without any context. Like it was all just like a mass of information. It didn't really mean anything to me. And then a couple of years later, somebody else offered again to read my chart. And so by then I had a little bit more sense of what it might be about. But I realized that the flowers themselves are very archetypal. Each one is a kind of a picture of a certain way of being in the world. It's a certain way of handling stress or relating to other people or processing your emotions.
Yes. So listen, me and my listeners, we don't know much, Tracy. So let's dumb this all down because I know we're all thinking like, what the hell flower did she just say? So tell us a little bit more as you start to talk about these Bach flowers. Explain it to us as if we know nothing.
Okay. I'll start at the beginning.
Okay.
So Edward Bach, who is the originator of this system, he was a medical doctor in England. So let's say we're talking about the 1920s, 30s part of his life. He died quite young. He was only 50. So his working life was from the teens to the 30s, let's say. He was a bacteriologist. So he was studying diseases and he was a researcher, and he became quite famous for developing a system of essentially, I'm going to say they were like vaccines because it was something that you would inject. But he was one of the first people ever to study the human gut biome, the microbiome that we talk about, all the gut bacteria that are in your intestines. That, again, he understood that was a very, very critical thing, talking about chronic disease, like not acute things that you would get like a flu or a poisoning or something like that, but chronic disease, talking about, heart disease, kidney disease, diabetes, rheumatism, whatever. And he was making medicines from essentially purified stool samples. Let's be honest. Whatever was coming out that had this bacteria from the inside of your gut.
They still do that to this day.
Fecal transplant. Exactly.
Okay,
so he is the grandfather originator of the fecal transplant, except he wasn't doing it as a suppository transplant. It was purified in the way that they do with vaccines when they take the actual, like the polio virus, and they
kind of isolate
kill it and isolate it and purify it and give it to you again. So he got very famous for this system because it was injecting.
Okay, gotcha.
And at one point in his career, in a kind of random way, he was shifted hospitals from the one that he was working at to another hospital, which happened to be a homeopathic hospital. It was quite common in the 20s and 30s. In Britain, there were several of them. There were a bunch in the US as well, and in Canada in that time. And so he didn't know anything about homeopathy, but they needed a bacteriologist. And, it's a regular hospital that does surgeries and all kinds of things. And as he became exposed to the concepts in homeopathy, he thought, well, this is cool. Like, let me see whether this whole system, this injectable system that I have, could be delivered in this homeopathic way without having to. I mean, it's a huge difference to not have to puncture the skin, quite aside from all of the, the cold chain that you need to store all of the stuff and everything else. So he partnered with another homeopath and turned this whole thing into what became a very important part of homeopathy practice. And I was very familiar with him through that window. Then he decides that, he was just a very, very sensitive and spiritual individual. And he just knew, like, having gone into homeopathy now he understands that it's all energy. Now he sees that his system is working even when it's being used, being prepared homeopathically, which means that there's not even any stuff in it anymore. Like the stuff, the material, chemical, molecular part of it is not present anymore, and it's still working. And he's seeing that with his own eyes. And also, it becomes a hugely famous thing, and medical doctors are using it everywhere in the world. So now he knows that it's all about energy, and he wants to move away from the idea of a toxic source substance. Like, he doesn't want to use poop anymore, and he doesn't want to use all of the poisonous substances that were the mainstay of homeopathy as well, that work so well because they are diluted to the point where there's no more toxic stuff, and just the energy can be absorbed or used in some way. And he closes down his thriving practice and his research lab and gives everything away and goes off to the countryside with a couple of suitcases and some loose change in his pocket. Literally, like he just gave up everything and became a kind of a hermit and did this research on his own about flowers. He wanted to use flowers as healing agents and to have a more simple, more direct way of making the medicines. Okay. So homeopathy is quite involved in terms of the process of turning a plant into a medicine. And what Edward Bach did was just copy the system that happens in nature. So he realized that dew condenses, like the moisture condensing out of the air lands on flower petals or leaves in the morning. And he was just so sensitive that he could tell when he touched something like that it had an effect on him. It had an effect on his emotional state.
Like the dew
primarily
was absorbing the medicinal components of that flower.
Right.
Okay.
And he said, nature is producing it. And I just have to figure out how to scale this, because you can't have thousands of people running around collecting one drop at a time. It wasn't practical in terms of becoming a medicine. So he figured out that you could take a handful of flowers, put them in a bowl of pure water in the sunlight for a couple of hours, and then strain the water out, and that's your medicine.
Perfect.
So today we have a very good explanation from the world of quantum physics describing exactly why this works. And I actually was very pleased to interview Gerald Pollack, who was a researcher from University of Washington, who wrote a book called The Fourth Phase of Water, where he describes how water is able to undergo a change of phase, instead of just there being like ice and liquid water and steam, there's a gel phase, which is a kind of liquid crystal where, how water kind of clings to the side of a glass, or there's like a film that clings. So whatever is attracted to this kind of surface that water loves to cling to, it arranges itself in a charged way so that the negative charge sticks to the side and all of the positive ions go sort of into the bulk water. And it forms this negative charged hydrogen ions form a lattice, like a crystal lattice, which behaves very much the same way that silicon does in your computer, just for instance. So it will hold a charge, and therefore it also, holds and transmits information.
This is all very, my friends listening, scientific, right?
It is very scientific. Like it's easy to describe the process.
There's a woo-woo feeling, of course, right? Because we're talking energy and all that, but this is scientifically pretty sound. Like there's results.
It is very sound, and it's a really easy, now we have an easy explanation only within the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, that we're starting to understand
that science has caught up to say, here's how this works. So I learned about the flower essences, and
the flower essence is, like you said, the flower
it's just this
in the water.
It just gets soaked in water for a few hours, exposed to essentially ultraviolet radiation from the sun, which powers the separation of the water into the positive and negative. And then by virtue of the contact with the flower, it's just transmitting information directly. So in homeopathy, we would be slowly diluting something over many, many times, and little by little, we're getting rid of the parts that we don't actually need, like the fiber and the dyes and the alkaloids or whatever, right, that are not relevant. And after it gets diluted, and all of that stuff is gone, what remains is a kind of message, like an information that your whole system can use this information to change a process that's not working smoothly, some distorted process.
Energetic charge. That's what we're working with. Is that right?
Yeah, kind of. It's a frequency. You're trying to harmonize some particular frequency in your body that is causing processes not to function properly, that there's a bit of corrupted code in your system that needs to be overwritten with the right message.
Yes. When did you marry the Bach essence with human design? Because
so
the study's all about.
Yeah, so this is a cool story. Again,
which blends go with which.
It's totally random, which is what's so fun, because nothing is random. Like, stuff always happens for the right reason.
Absolutely.
I went to a conference last year, almost a year ago. It was in May, in New York. And it was completely random that I decided to go to this thing. I just knew I was supposed to be there. I don't know how else to describe it. It came up, and I just knew I was supposed to be there. It was for 3 days, and it was a kind of high-level networking thing. And I really love networking, actually. Like, I just love meeting people and talking to people. And the woman who was running it, her name is Selena Sue. She's a business coach and a publicity person, actually. She had asked everybody, in order that we might get to know each other in advance, to put in your bio and all of that stuff. And then there were some trivia questions. What's your hobby, and where do you like to travel, and what's your human design? What energy type are you? And so I had everybody else's information with me there. And it just occurred to me that one of the ways I could get to know people would be to meet all the manifesting generators, because I'm one.
Okay. Yep.
And, it would be a kind of intro line. I could walk up to someone and say, hey, I see you're also a manifesting generator. So am I, And that was as far as I got with it. I arrived there with an idea to engage somehow around the fact that I knew that there were other manifesting generators there. And I had gone to New York with the clear idea of giving my own masterclass while I was there. Someone had offered me an amazing location to give a masterclass about my Bach flower stuff, about the blends that I was creating for people, and, specifically trying to help female entrepreneurs.
These Bach Flower Essences, you just hadn't connected it to human design yet.
Right.
So how are you deciding what you were giving these women? Was it intuitive? Was it based on what they were experiencing in their lives?
It was based on what they were experiencing, what they were not in a healing way, but a more aspirational way of like
Goals,
I'm so
manifesting.
close to this and I don't know what's blocking me from
I gotcha.
attracting funding for getting the promotion that I'm looking for. Because I'm working archetypally, I can understand from what they're telling me which archetypes need to come online in order for them to, engage in the way that they want to. And I know which Bach flowers do those jobs because the flowers are also so archetypal in how they all seem to have their own kind of personality.
So give me one example. Give me one archetype and one flower that would go with that.
My gosh. There are 4 what we call shadow archetypes, which are the unconscious characters, I'll say, that are working in the background for each and every one of us around issues of value, self-worth, expression. That would be one kind of archetype. Another one is around identity, individuation, hierarchy. Where do I fit, you and me? Fairness, responsibility, authority. Then there's another archetype that's around physicality, like everything to do with your body, to do with actual resources, with money, with boundaries, with willpower. And another one has to do with mind and mental processes. So time and meaning, validation, proof, evidence, rational thinking, belief systems.
So basically, you're pairing the flowers up based on goals.
Exactly.
That women have.
Exactly.
What am I looking to do next?
So these are all the kind of things that in the unconscious archetype of each of those things that I just talked about, it's a narrative around survival where you don't have enough, you're not worth enough, you don't dare to do this, you have to have proof, you have to see the answer before you make a move, you need things to be fair, you need to have closure. It's all a lot of illusion that is running our day-to-day decision making. And when you can have a better awareness of reality, a higher viewpoint where you go, why did I think that? Like, that's not true, where you can see with clarity the way things really are. That's a very powerful place to be. That's where you can have some actual agency and make things happen. So these flower essences tend to help us to come out of our illusions, of our limiting beliefs, of our, perpetual hamster wheel thought patterns or whatever we're having. So there are specific flowers that are more about fear and anxiety, about kind of dissolving that. There are some that are about self-esteem. There are some that are about anger, resentment, irritability, all the kind of negative jealousy, heavy negative emotions. There are some about our focus, attention, clarity of decision making. What else? About energy management, people pleasing.
Oh, yeah. Basically, each flower has something it specializes in helping you with. Change frequency, energy.
Exactly.
Okay. So then you married this with human design because there's very specific things to different human design.
Exactly. I'm sitting in this conference with all of my stuff. Like I had a set of Bach flowers with me because I was going to do this masterclass that got canceled. And I had a set of glass bottles that I use for making blends because I was going to do this as part of my, my masterclass thing that I was going to give. And it just came to me suddenly like I could make a manifesting generator blend and give it to people there. It just hit me.
Big old download. Like, why aren't
but
you
I didn't know how to do it. So I was on my laptop, like literally on the fly, learning about, I knew what I had to do. I needed to know more about not just me as a manifesting generator, but what is a manifesting generator? What is the challenge common to all manifesting generators that I could address? And so I looked at the not self and I just got advice from whatever websites I stumbled on in the moment about, what is the not self challenge of the manifesting generator. And
so to be clear, you guys, we've had episodes on human design before, but if you haven't listened to those yet, everyone has their human design and it's based on literally your name, your birth date, the time you were born, and we can put links in the comments if you're not sure what you are. You can for free figure all this out, what state you were born in, all of these things. And then you fall into one of its 5 categories. Is that right, Tracy? And it's really cool. We've talked about how it's really cool to figure out not just what your own is, but other people in your lives, right? Like your partner, your children, because it is really cool how it's very clear.
It's very clear. I just looked up the human design so my husband and I just became grandparents. His middle son and his partner had a baby like a week ago. And so I looked up the human design of this baby who is a baby generator. it was clear from the human design that this is a little person who is going to need and relish a lot of alone time. Being a 2-4 profile or whatever, there's a kind of hermit element there or something. Anyway, and I thought it's really interesting. Like, what can you know about a little person who's a few hours old or a few days old? But even to be able to say, like, this particular kid is going to need time alone and can make such a huge difference. This is not the kid who you want to put in a million activities. And
no, it's
like
going to be too
that
overload.
it's not going to be weird if this kid wants to come home from school every day and be alone in his room.
Right. You get a better understanding of that child. You're like, this is how my baby was built. Like,
and this is normal, and this is how they are going to be successful. And if you say, well, but like all the other kids are out playing on the street, this is weird that you're in your, well, it's not weird.
It's not weird. It's exactly how they were meant to be. Yeah. And so when you're saying not self, so when you get your readout, you guys, there's a not self, like a feeling, like mine is anger. Maybe you'll get like anger. So when you're feeling anger, you're out of sync. Right. You're off. Right. So you're saying you were looking at those aspects of each one so that you could link up the right flower essence to help with what's common for all of those.
Yeah. As a manifesting generator, so my not self is frustration when things aren't going right. But I just looked at, qualities or characteristics that people have trouble coming to grips with and accepting because you've been conditioned. That's the idea, that you want to decondition yourself. We've been conditioned to believe that we should all be the same in some way and that some important element of how you're designed is at odds with how you're supposed to be in the world. So my big thing that has been a huge help for me in learning about human design is you can already hear in my story that I'm changing horses all the time, right?
Yep.
I'm a homeopath, and then I become a coach for stepmoms, and then I decide that I really need to be coaching the dads, and then I'm studying, consciousness
and the manifestor part of it.
That's right. Like that I need to,
and I change stuff all the time. Manifestors were not meant to get a job at 19 or 20 and retire when you're 65 the same job. Nope. We would be not really honoring our authentic self if we were doing all that. We'd be miserable. So it is really cool to figure out what each one, because
except that the problem is that other people say, what's the matter with you? Like, pick a thing and do it. You're so unreliable. You're changing all the time.
Yeah.
Well, it's important for I can speak to what it did for me. It gave me permission to disregard what I'm hearing from other people. My business coaches who would say, God, just pick something and stick with it longer. Like every time you just go down like shiny object syndrome, right? We're all told that you're supposed to not fall prey to shiny object syndrome and just chase every bunny down every rabbit hole. That's exciting, but I am made to do that. That is how I contribute to the collective, is by chasing rabbits down rabbit holes. That's what I do.
That's your authentic path. So everybody else,
what I was put here to do.
Mind your business. Yeah, mind your business. You're on your path. I'm on mine. Yeah. And you're doing really well. So hey. What's the problem here? I don't see it.
The goal is for me to generate energy by being excited about what I do. And the goal is not for me to achieve some kind of success according to a preset, conditional collective calendar of what that means, right? Like in the big, celestial picture, I generate energy for the collective by engaging in what interests me. That's my whole purpose here.
That's your thing. Yeah, same for manifestors. Yeah. I'm supposed to bring these big creative ideas into the world, right? Get them out there, get them going, and then hand them off to the generators and other people to keep going so that I can birth a new big thing into the world, right? Yeah. That's just that's what's meant to happen. And I wish I'd known that when I was younger, when I was changing jobs and, I don't want to be a nurse anymore. I think I want to go back to school for something else. And the world probably was going, can't she just be one thing? And I was thinking, I don't think I can. No, it's not who I am. Let's talk about the different blends and what they help with for each. So if you're listening, you can go back and figure out what you are. If you don't know what you are yet, we'll put a link underneath for you guys, so you can figure out what human design you are. You can get these blends to help you with things. So let's talk about these different blends based on the human design.
Okay.
Okay. Should we start with the old generators?
Sure.
We go from the most common?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So what are we addressing with generators?
So I'll just tell you quickly that having created all of these blends, I figured that I'd better test them, because otherwise I wouldn't have any way of knowing whether they actually do what I think they're going to do. I did a whole study. I had 28 people who from all the different 5 energy types.
Yeah.
I even had 2 reflectors, which is quite amazing because there's
Hard to find
usually only
reflectors.
1 in 100. I created a kind of a testing instrument, they would call it, like a quiz, if you will.
Yeah. Okay.
That people filled out before and during and after they were taking the blend, so that we could identify what are your actual issues? What do you want to change from taking this blend? And then how are we doing with that? So they would answer these questions, on a scale of 1 to 10. How problematic is this for you? So the way that I analyzed the results was to take everybody's top 3 issues. So there would be 10. Every type got the same sheet. Like there were 5 different questionnaires, but each manifesting generator was answering the same questionnaire. Gotcha. And they would rate from 1 to 10, like how intense is this issue for you? And then I took the top 3 things that they had rated, like the things that were 8, 9, 10, let's say, and followed those of how did they change over the period of time that they were on the test. So the one thing that was most obvious across all the types was that the longer people stayed on it, the more change they got. This was like a completely voluntary beta test, so I'm not twisting anybody's arm. So there were some people who didn't keep with it, or they didn't keep filling out the questionnaire as they were asked to do or whatever. But the generators got results from like an average of 72% improvement in their top 3 things, right? That's a month of time, or 6 weeks at most.
That's amazing.
That's incredible to think that the top 3 issues that you have as a generator that are blocking you from being happy or having better relationships or being more successful in your career, that could improve by 72% in a couple of weeks is quite something. So there were 3 things. So this compulsion to be helpful to other people for generators is a really big deal. Like I need to feel helpful. And the idea that you're doing things for other people out of a sense of obligation rather than
genuinely wanting to do it.
It's just a genuine energetic response.
Yeah. Which feels like almost every midlife woman, whether you're a generator or not, but yes.
Totally. Right? So what it's bringing then is a kind of a freedom to offer out to the world from a sense of fullness or overflow rather than from a fear of disappointing someone. Yeah. Okay. The other thing for generators was losing energy to uninspiring activities. So like getting stuck in things that you've outgrown because you can't figure out how to let it go or move on or disentangle yourself.
Your energy.
Yeah.
Still. Okay.
And the burden of feeling solely responsible for making things happen. Like if I don't do it, it won't get done. That kind of feeling, right?
Generator thing. Yep.
So installing a kind of trust that the right thing is always happening. You don't have to manage every situation, that things are unfolding as they should. But it's a trust in your body, a real deep sense of trust that you don't have to be in that.
You're not responsible.
Yes, you're not responsible and feeling burdened by it. So that is kind of the essence of what the generator version of this blend is about. And then the manifesting generators have this thing where I say yes to things too fast and then I'm sorry. So it's this compulsion for speeding through, regardless of what direction it's taking you. So to be able to
take a pause.
To take a pause and let your body inform you of whether this momentum is a genuine thing or it's just a kind of anxious nervous system response. And then being really sensitive to judgment or doubt from other people, from outside sources. The not self responds to feeling monitored or doubted. And so the blend then brings a kind of stability that helps you resist the force of external skepticism, when people are not on board or they don't believe you or they're giving you pushback. It's helping you to stand your ground with,
That's a little we don't care elixir. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Read my lips. Yeah. And also manifesting generators often have difficulty receiving input or guidance if it's not delivered in the right way. So it helps you to welcome input with a sense of curiosity, no matter where it's coming from, instead of shielding to,
That lets you
blocking.
look in the mirror, maybe not feel so devastated when you get criticism.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. To be able to receive criticism without that automatic resistance, right? To just be curious about, like,
why are they saying
what would
that?
it be like if I considered that, to not have to internally bristle whenever there's some kind of what could be constructive criticism, right? Like, we all want to be able to take constructive criticism, but there's this automatic reflex to just kind of shield yourself from it because it's it challenges your self-worth, or it feels painful, right? Or risky.
Yes.
The projectors were the most likely to keep on the program longer and to keep filling out the form. So I have the most data. But projectors suffer from bitterness. Like, they react with bitterness because they are perpetually ignored. Their contribution is often ignored by other people.
Okay.
They experience a lot of rejection, typically because they see a bigger picture than what other people can see. And what they have to offer is often resisted because
no one else sees that big picture.
Nobody else
people are thinking you don't
can
know what
see what they can see, right? So that's a real big one. Like, the being able to spend less of your time with this bitter feeling that doesn't do anything, right? It's like an inner toxic substance to your own system. It's not changing anything in the world if you feel bitter. So it helps you to kind of to rest in this unshakable knowing of your own value, to not require other people to applaud you in order to validate yourself.
Yeah. I was going to say, feels like you need less validation.
You need less validation.
Yeah.
And using withdrawal as a protective mechanism is big for projectors. So they kind of shut down when they are not getting the recognition that they require. So the blend then would help you to stay present and available without having conditions on your environment or conditions on other people behaving in a certain way in order for you to be present. You can be present even without that. And feeling guilty. Okay, so projectors need a great deal more rest than other people. So like a full work day for a projector could be only 30 or 40% of what people, generators or manifestors, could projectors tend to feel guilty that they're resting while other people are still working. It creates a lot of guilt, and they feel that that their natural rhythm is some kind of flaw, like it's a character flaw. I'm defective in some way.
Yeah, like then you start thinking you're the lazy butt. Yeah,
right.
When really that's how you were built. The projectors probably get hell of a lot more done sometimes.
Well, they're contributing something different. Their job is to contribute an overview.
Yeah.
Their job is not to be the worker bee who,
the big picture,
does all of the little parts. Their job is to stand over and say, something is missing over here that nobody else can see. That's your job.
Gotcha.
And somehow, with the work ethic that most people grow up with, we're convinced that we are all supposed to apply ourselves with the same pace of energy
more in order to
and that your value comes from what you do. It comes from how you contribute. And if you have this idea that we're all supposed to contribute in the same way, to the same degree, with the same pace, then it's easy to feel that your value is diminished in some way. So this is something that helps to build up your certainty that your rhythm has a meaning and a purpose.
Yes.
And it's not a flaw. So manifestors, here's a story. This is also why I'm excited that you're doing this, because the manifestors were the group that I had the most trouble to get them to
keep participating.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Totally.
That's a manifestor. That's me. Yeah.
It is, totally. And it's really funny. It was so obvious, but there was one problem after another. Like, I couldn't keep doing it because XYZ, or oh, I was really sick, so I haven't been able to take it, or oh, we're moving right now and I decided that I can't actually do it, or like they were the ones who I had to keep bugging the most to give back information. So the qualities that I have, the things that would be most relevant for manifestors would be feeling responsible for how other people respond to me. So like I have to manage how other people are going to respond. It's important for me to deliver myself in a palatable way because I'm responsible for how other people are going to respond. Also, the idea that whenever I try to express myself, I expect to be either ignored or attacked. It's kind of saying the same thing in a different way. Manifestors are walking a kind of a tightrope situation of not knowing how to express themselves in a way that is clear enough that they're not invisible or ignored, but not coming across too strong where people push back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's what I'm looking at for manifestors in particular. The reflectors, well, of course, there were only 2, right? And this was really interesting because so they responded in a very different way. And I mean, it's a shame that it's hard to find more reflectors to get a better sense. But so one person got 54% reduction in her things over I think she stayed on for 6 weeks, which is great. And again, that's like a 50% improvement in the 3 biggest things that are blocking you, from moving forward in life. So reflectors are people who easily absorb energy from other people. So it's easy to mistake what you're absorbing from others in terms of their mood and their energy states so that's a thing, like taking other people's fatigue or depression or sadness or anxiety as being yours. And you can't tell what's yours from what's somebody else's because you're so porous. I mean, I guess we would call that like being an empath maybe, but
at a whole nother level.
Right.
Really.
So the blend would give you a greater ability to witness and acknowledge what's there without claiming everything as being yours.
Like
right?
essentially protecting your energy better, what you absorb into your body.
Right. Okay. Letting something pass through you without identifying with it, I guess would be the idea. Like to acknowledge there's some sadness here and it doesn't have to be yours or about you.
Right.
Disappointment is a big thing for reflectors when something doesn't meet your expectations. And I mean, I guess it would be easy to say anybody could be disappointed when things don't meet their expectations, but I think this is an especially acute problem for reflectors.
Yeah.
So I would say that the blend has something to do with helping you to recognize and neutralize that frequency of expectation, which is the thing that, that you're unaware how much you're relying on something turning out a certain way.
Yeah.
So to just let things be as they are a little more. Again, there's issues with matching the pace of other people for reflectors. So this kind of internal friction from living your life in a mismatched rhythm.
Yes.
So it would help you to protect your natural pace against falling in lockstep with what's going on around you as a
keep up with everyone around you.
Yeah.
Versus your own pace. Okay, that makes sense.
It's the first time that there's been a kind of a quantitative study about human design where there are numbers involved and percentages that can be measured. Of course, it's all self-reported data, but that is the nature of conscious experience. It's a first-person experience, right? There's no third-person version of this where you can say, well, we measure your confidence now at 73 volts or something. Like it's only an internal
you just go
experience.
Get lab. Yeah, we've got to talk about work.
The comments that I've gotten, because I've tried to interview most of the people again who did the program to ask them questions, and to hear somebody say like, can't imagine now agreeing to do something that I don't want to do. Why would I say yes to something that I don't want to do when she spent 50 years of her life not being able to say no. And waking up one day and saying, why would I ever do that? It's just like you're a new person.
Yeah.
It's stepping into a new identity where that's not part of who you are anymore. And you're not afraid of the consequence of it because the consequence is meaningless to you.
Right. Because you have a better understanding of yourself now and how you are meant to move through this world. Yeah.
Well, it's not even an understanding. It's that your body is online cooperating with this. You can understand it is wrong of me to overextend myself and to constantly say yes. And I know I should say no, but I just can't bring myself to do it. It's your body that doesn't let you do it. It's your nervous system that tightens up, or you get a feeling in your stomach, or you get a dry mouth, or you get a headache, or whatever happens. Like, you can't get yourself to disappoint someone. And once that lets go and it's not in your body anymore, it's just like, why was that a problem for me? They'll get over it. And they do. And the one woman in particular who said she's like forever babysitting. And of course she loves her grandchildren, but they're like 1, 3, and 5. And she was asked to take them for a whole weekend. And she said, I know that I can't do that. I don't have the energy for it. I don't have the bandwidth for it. It takes me a week to recover.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
She said, I said no. And, my daughter and son-in-law said, okay. And they found a babysitter and it was no big deal.
Like, it'll be okay.
Right? Like, it was totally okay. There was always this, what if there's a big fight? What if they don't love me anymore?
Yeah. What if they don't let me see my grandkids as much anymore because they're mad at me, or like all the what ifs? Yeah, we got to get rid of all
And
those.
it was like, the truth of it is that it wasn't a big deal.
No.
Another woman who said, I don't have to validate my self-worth anymore. Like, how does that feel to realize and to be able to say it? Like, I'm walking through the world looking for ways to prove my worth. And I don't need to do that anymore. I can see it when I'm doing it. And I'm like, no, stop that.
We've done plenty of that by midlife, you guys. We've
Totally.
We've already been doing that for a long time.
Midlife is a really interesting time. I mean, I can say that having pretty much passed through it. I'm going to be 67.
My God, Tracy, whatever you're taking, that's what I want to order.
Like, I really wanted this to be personalized as much as possible, even though every manifestor is taking the same blend as every other manifestor. But you get to go through this assessment process and basically decide what it's going to do for you by the way that you rate these things. And then there's also a set of releasing statements, which are part of the process that I've been developing together with a colleague, Sonal Singhal. We've been working for a couple of years actually on creating these releasing statements, which are the inside out version of affirmations.
Yeah.
So instead of affirmations, which try to like affirm the state that you want to be in, releasing statements are acknowledging, kind of witnessing where you are right now, that something that you want to release that is not serving you, right? So for instance...
Yeah, give me a statement. What would one be?
So how about like my tendency to feel guilty about leaving projects that I've outgrown?
Okay. Yeah, like I release that. Yep.
Right? So there are 10 releasing statements for each type. The projectors, one of them is the guilt I feel about having a different pace of energy than other people around me. The guilt I feel when I'm resting and other people are still working, or my tendency to fall into bitterness whenever somebody rejects what I have to offer them.
Okay, so logistically, because I'm thinking this is going to work best for people if they set an intention for it, right?
Right.
Because we're talking about changing our frequency at a subconscious level, all of these things, and then using, like you said, I release whatever. So logistically, are we putting a dropper in our water? Are we putting it under our tongue? How are we ingesting?
You can do it either way. I normally put it in my water and drink it. And
does it have a taste? You guys, I've ordered mine, so I'll update maybe before this airs. But so there's really no taste to it.
It doesn't taste anything. It has to be preserved with something. Otherwise it's plain water and it'll grow, eventually.
That'll be bad. Yeah.
Right. So there's some,
is it brandy?
Brandy or alcohol. It's usually brandy.
Okay. Yeah.
That I put in. It's brandy or some kind of alcohol just as a preservative, but you're only taking a couple of drops.
Okay.
So typically I tell people to put like 4 drops from their dropper bottle. The standard is 4 times a day. If people are especially sensitive, they can take it once or twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
If you keep water with you all the time, you can just put it in your water and drink it and do it again the next time and drink it. And, you can keep it on for the day. And
But you can
if you
drink it all.
like, you can also just put a few drops under your tongue.
Yeah.
Right
That's
from the
probably
bottle.
okay. So, because pro tip, because a lot of people fill up their, their water bottle for the day, right? And you got big expectations. You're going to drink that whole thing 4 times. No, you're not. Sometimes you're not.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I put the drops in and then forget about that damn water bottle, I mean, I haven't taken any. So I feel like I would need a smaller amount of water and just get her down like a shot glass kind of
That's
business.
fine. That's totally fine. Yeah, you do have to kind of think about it. I mean, at least you can take a squirt before you go to bed or something like that,
Yes.
I think if you take it once or twice a day, it's probably doing the job.
The effects. Yeah. 4 is optimal, but you could do less than that.
Right. It's good to hold it in your mouth for a moment before you swallow. The absorption is through the mucous membranes and all the nerve endings in your mouth area. So like it's not going in through your digestive system the way it would be like swallowing a pill.
Yes. So maybe holding it under your tongue, like you said, for a few seconds if you're doing
a few seconds or whatever. You can also apply it externally. So if you happen to be somebody who just like won't touch a drop of alcohol ever for whatever reason, religious reasons or anything, you can, put some in a bowl and put a little cotton pad or a cloth or something like that. And you can just, put it anywhere you like.
Dab it on your
wrists like a little perfume or whatever, but it doesn't have any taste or smell. So it's not like essential oils, for instance.
You can just rub it also, almost like a magnesium lotion or something. You could just put it on. Yeah. Okay. So essentially what we're doing is balancing out our frequency, right? Is it helping us raise our frequency basically, or just leveling us out? I mean, I'm always trying to get a higher frequency going, but
yeah. I think let's say that my intention is to raise my frequency. I want to be moving into the highest possible iteration of conscious experience that I can have.
Okay.
I want to see the world from the highest possible perspective. And I think we talk about that as being a higher frequency. But there is something about balance, which has to do with coherence, right? And being coherent is the thing that you really want to be. So like there's a way of being in a high frequency which is just chaotic and frantic, and that's not the one we want. We want to be coherent.
Yes.
The coherent frequency is the one that the best part of you out into the world, right?
Yes. Okay.
It's the one that allows you to process emotions easily. So that things are not getting stuck when you are coherent. There are no twists or kinks. There's a coherent signal and things are flowing through you. Like your emotions are meant to just be there and flow through you and be gone, right? The problem is when we don't allow that flow because we judge the emotion or because we run away from the feeling in some way. That's where it gets stuck. So towards higher frequency and more
balance,
coherence.
Yeah, coherence. Okay, I like that. All right. Well, if this is resonating with you guys, you got to check it out. Everything's in the show notes. Her website, all her things. She also has a podcast, you guys, called Limitless. Tell us about that.
Well, that's been just a fun project, and it's so random. Like I just really interview people who I find interesting, but basically the concept of limitless is to explore the frontiers of our potential. Be expanding our potential in some way, not just achieving it, but expanding the limits constantly of what can be possible. So both for humanity as a whole and as individual people who are just finding ways to do things outside of what we might have thought were our limits, right? We all have our own little glass ceiling that we create for ourselves.
Yeah.
So, So yeah, I just, I have about 45 episodes up. It's been a really fun project, and I'm especially interested in the intersection of science and consciousness. That's the place where
like your sweet spot.
That's my sweet spot for
where
sure.
You're at, right? You're getting a lot of downloads and all kinds of exciting stuff. I like it. Okay, cool. I've got her website down there too, which is the Space Time Alchemy, and that you do coaching through that still, or
I do.
what?
Yep.
Okay. You guys can learn all that. She's got a cool website. You can figure all this stuff out. Is there anything else on the horizon here? Anything coming up?
I'm working on a book, and that'll be, I mean, that's more than a year out probably, but I'm excited to be.
I bet you're downloading all kinds of cool stuff to go in there.
Yeah.
Consciousness, Yeah, all the
Yeah,
things.
I have a membership community where I teach about Bach flowers, about my approach to using Bach flowers for expanding consciousness in particular. So,
well, I got my manifesting blend already ordered, you guys. So we're just gonna see what happens. I'm excited.
I'm excited about that, Jen.
And I almost feel like maybe I should order one for my reflector and my different. Everybody take this. Yeah, they all think I'm nuts. I mail my kids stuff like, try this. And they're like, oh God, what'd she send us now? I'll send it out. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But okay, well, this has been super interesting, Tracy, because I had not heard about this connection with Bach flowers and human design and consciousness. And it feels like something really cool and new that you're embarking on here.
I think I made it up. I mean, I don't think anybody else is doing anything like this. So it's.
Well, because you were tasked to download all this. This is you. And I bet other people got downloads like this and they ignored it. And you did not, because I think Spirit, they'll give ideas to lots of people hoping somebody follows through. Right. Yeah. And you did. You did it. Okay. I'm proud of you, Tracy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, because it feels like you're walking your authentic path with this. And I love that, right? I think that's what we're all supposed to be doing right now. So, okay. Well, I'm excited to try my blend, and you guys check out all the links below for you to figure out your human design if you don't know yet.
Yeah, for sure.
If you've been following my show for a while, you probably do, because we've had some episodes, but if you don't, the link is free that I'm putting in there. Just click. You do need to know what time you were born to really make it super accurate. I like it. This is the fun part of the spiritual journey, you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is doing work, but in a cool, new, fun way. I like it. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. This was great.
Listen, I know your time is valuable. And right now, I'm feeling super grateful and totally humbled that you chose to hang out with me today. If this podcast resonates with you, could you do me a solid and hit that subscribe or follow button? That's going to help you out because you're never going to miss an episode. And it helps me out because you're never going to miss an episode. And if you have 30 seconds more, could you leave a 5-star rating and maybe leave a kick-ass review? Thank you so much, and I can't wait to continue our journey on the next episode. Oh, and I can't forget the fine print. You know, the legal jargon. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We're just two friends on this journey together, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or any other qualified professional. You get it. See you next time.